What's up guys? So about a year ago I made this YouTube short that was a quick guide on Scatha mining. This really was just supposed to be a test to see if I could edit videos at all, but I guess I'm the Scatha man now. I've had a lot of Skyblock friends asking me to update this guide because year 500 is right around the corner, and I figured why not? So quick intro out of the way, let's get right into this. The whole reason we're Scatha mining is to drop Scatha pets. These pets drop from, as the name implies, Scathas. Scathas are a type of worm, which is a mob that only spawns in the crystal hollows, and spawning them is really easy. All the game is going to check is that you're within a 1x2 tunnel, and once that condition is met, any block you break has a chance of spawning a worm. So now that we know how spawning works, here's the best way to go about it. We're going to need two sets for this. The first set you'll need will have 0 mining spread on it. This will be your killing set. The specific gear we'll focus on later, but all that matters is that it has 0 mining spread. The second set will focus entirely on maxing mining spread. This will be glossy mineral armor or just regular mineral armor if you can't afford it. We'll get into what equipment you'll want to use later, but all that matters right now is that it has the blazing reforge. The blazing bonus gives us an extra 0.05% chance to dig up worms for every heat we have. With 4 pieces, that's an extra 0.2% chance per heat, or about 20% with 100 heat. With this equipment, however, we'll only be allowed to use the magma fields for Scatha mining, as that's the only place we can get heat. For our mining tools, it's best to have 2 of them, one without mining spread and one with the fleet reforge for extra mining spread. It's not super important to have 2, but if you do have them, you might as well use them. It's also really nice to have a blue cheese goblin omelet, so that way our tunnel vision perk gets an extra boost. Speaking of tunnel vision, here's what our Hodom tree should look like. The specific points you have in your tree really don't matter, so long as you hit a few key nodes. And this is what this will look like. You're going to head up the middle to grab efficient miner and mole for mining spread. Head over to Sky Mall specifically for the minus 20% pickaxe ability cooldowns. This is super useful for tunnel vision and we'll want to take advantage of it when we have it. Going up the middle, we'll make sure to grab Keep It Cool for the extra heat resistance. This will help keep us alive in the magma fields. We'll then go up and over to Miner's Blessing for an extra 30 magic find on all mining islands. This applies to Scathas. We'll then head down and grab tunnel vision so we have a 50% chance for 30 seconds to spawn more worms. Other than that, the rest of the points don't matter, so put them wherever you like. With all that squared away, here's what Scatha mining should look like. You'll start by heading down to the magma fields and find a nice lava pool. Make sure all of your blazing equipment is off, and in your Hodom tree, you have the Keep It Cool perk disabled. We want to get as little heat resistance as possible. Next, you'll stand inside a lava pool to gain 3 heat every second. Go up until you're at about 90 and hop out. And as you saw there, we're now at 90 heat, and I went ahead and switched over to my bow. And this is a good time to cover our pet rules. The best ones to use are on Hearthstone Collection equip bow or on Mining XP equip bow. It really doesn't matter so long as whenever you're mining blocks you equip your bow pet. Then on Enter Combat equip your golden dragon. So anytime you punch a Scatha, you'll equip your golden dragon or whatever magic find pet and you'll get the extra magic find on kill. With the pet rules squared away, let's get into mining. We'll go ahead and re-equip our equipment so we get the blazing bonus. We'll also go back into our Hodom tree and we're going to re-enable Keep It Cool so we keep the heat resistance. It's also a nice tip to disable Great Explorer if you have it unlocked. We'll also want to go to Mole and Efficient Miner and disable both of them because we don't want mining spread for this next step. Once you have 0 mining spread, you'll find a nice spot to dig a tunnel and you'll just start digging. Go until you reach the end. So we've reached the end here and unfortunately we didn't spawn any worms. However, you can still spawn worms in this step. This next step, however, you will definitely spawn worms as it's pretty busted. You'll want to switch over to your mining spread set, which for me is my glossy mineral. You'll also switch over to your fleet pickaxe, which as you can see I don't have because I'm kinda poor. You're going to go back into your Hodom tree and you'll re-enable efficient miner and mole. Then we're going to look at the ceiling and we're going to mine it while we walk backwards. The reason this works is because the game still counts us as inside a 1x2 tunnel. So all these blocks we're breaking with the extra mining spread are going towards the chance to spawn a worm. Another thing to note is that Scathas have a cooldown. After you spawn a worm, you won't be able to spawn another for 30 seconds after it's spawned. So you'll have 30 seconds of downtime to do whatever you want. Now that you know the technique, there's 2 main ways of doing this. You can either wall mine or you can floor mine. It really comes down to a matter of preference as there's pros and cons to each. If you're wall mining, you'll start by going to the corner of the map. You'll start by digging a ring all the way around the crystal hollows. Make sure you don't have any mining spread for this. Once you get back to where you started, you'll switch to your mining spread set, and you'll walk backwards through the whole ring again and spawn a whole bunch of worms. Once you're back to where you started, you'll go back to your 0 mining spread set, dig down 3 blocks, and repeat the process. Some downsides to wall mining is that you can get spleefed as there's no bedrock below you, so if anybody's powder mining or if you accidentally mine underneath you, you will get spleefed and it's really annoying. Another thing is blocks will respawn behind you, so you'll occasionally have to clear out blocks as you go. You can do this on your Scatha cooldown, however. One upside to wall mining, however, is the fact that it's not a very common method. Most people are down on the floor, so you'll usually have the walls all to yourself, and this is my preferred method. If you decide to floor mine, there's a specific way you want to go about it. You'll want to head over to the east wall and mine all the way down to the bedrock layer. Then you'll want to get something with mining spread and just dig out a tunnel north to south along the east wall to make a nice hub for you to switch between tunnels. Once you have this tunnel dug out, you'll head all the way to one side and make sure you're facing west. You'll then dig a tunnel all the way down without any mining spread. Once you get to the west wall, you'll switch to your mining spread set and mine all the way backward. Once you're back at the east wall, you'll switch back to your 0 mining spread set, go over about 4 or 5 blocks, and start a new tunnel, repeating the process. Since bedrock is below you, you can't get spleeps like wall mining. However, you can run into pathways and structures along the way, which can slow you down as well. Another problem is floor mining is very contested as it's where most people go, so it could be hard to find a good place to tunnel. Alright, now with all of that out of the way, we need to get into the best way of actually dropping the pet. And this will boil down to maxing 3 separate stats. I explained this pretty well in my short, so I'll go ahead and roll that clip. Both Magic Find and Pet Luck equally increase drop chance. Combined, they are dubbed Effective Magic Find. You need to get this number as high as possible. Thank you, past me. I couldn't have said it better myself. There's a common misconception that Pet Luck actually increases the chance of dropping higher rarity pets. However, I'd like to clarify that this has never worked this way. I think this misconception was derived back whenever pet crafting used to drop different rarities, as Pet Luck did increase the chance of crafting a higher rarity pet, but when it came to dropping pets, it has only ever worked as an additional Magic Find buff. With that cleared up, there's a third stat we need to focus on, and this is one that my guide didn't cover because it came out after it already made it, and this is tracking. Tracking is super important because for every 1 tracking we have, we get a 1% increased chance of spawning elusive mobs, and Scathas fall under that category. Let's use an example. If we had 100 tracking, that would mean we have double the chance of spawning Scathas. Scathas have a base 20% chance of spawning anytime you spawn a worm, so with 100 tracking, that would bump it up to 40% chance. This makes tracking super important as more Scathas means more chances to drop pets. Unfortunately, we can't quite hit 100 tracking, so we'll have to take any little sources of it we can. Alright, so the big question now is how do we maximize all of these stats at once? Well, lucky for you, I did all of these calculations beforehand, and I'm just going to throw all of them up on screen. Although I'm covering all the max stats now, don't worry, I'll cover how you can get a good amount of stats even if you're at the early to mid game range. Alright, there's a few things I'd like to clarify here. First thing is tracking above all else. The maximum we can get here is a value of 22.5. We'll want to be using our beacon on tracking instead of on Pet Luck or Magic Find. Speaking of Magic Find, it's the next on the priority list, and with all the changes to Pet Luck, it's best just to take any source of Magic Find we can get, and then leave all the leftovers for Pet Luck. The maximum amount of Magic Find we can get here is about 412.5, and the max amount of Pet Luck we can get is about 107. Something I'd like to note is the difference between Sorrow and Superior. This used to be really annoying to calculate, as Superior would give a percent buff to your stats, whereas Sorrow gave a flat rate. So when it came to min-maxing Pet Luck and Magic Find with Superior to beat out Sorrow, it would get very annoying. However, with Superior's change to only affecting Magic Find, the calculation is much easier, as you can only get more Magic Find with Superior if you have 416 or more Magic Find, and we can only get that close if we use something like a Clover Helm, which would negate the Superior's bonus anyways as it's a full set bonus, so Sorrow all the way. Next, I'd like to cover the temporary event bonuses. With Jerry, it would give a flat additive 10% bonuses to all these stats. Next, we have Diana's 10% tracking bonus, and we can have both of these buffs at the same time. However, the MVP that we're looking at today is the year 500, where we're going to get a whopping 50 tracking alongside a nice helping of 50 Magic Find. And another thing to note is I did wait to check on the mayor election, as we will be getting Diana alongside the year 500, so we'll be getting an extra 10 on top of the 50. So that outlandish 100 tracking figure I talked about earlier actually isn't that far off. So if there's any time to Scatha mine, it's right now, as you'll be getting about double the spawns as you used to. Alright, with the max stats out of the way, let's look at how you can maybe get some good stats even if you're early to mid game and don't have a lot of money. 1 AM Hammer here. As I stayed up late into the night to try and finish editing this video, I only just now realized that I actually forgot to record the entire voiceover for this final section. So if the voiceover here sounds any different, it's because it's past 1 AM and I need to get this out before year 500. And trying to be as quiet as possible while doing so. But as the saying goes, the show must go on, so let's get right back into it. For this segment, I'll cover it in 4 sections: beginner, mid-game, late game, and end game, with each one having its own tier of items and upgrades you should get along the way. But before we cover those, there's 2 sources you should get no matter where you're at. Always grab the sentry cakes before you go mining, as they're an extra pet luck and magic find each. You can also get an extra 5 magic find from the community center, and it's completely free, so you should already have this done. But moving forward, we're in the beginner category. This is if you're super early game, maybe Iron Man, just trying to drop a pet during the sentry raffle. The mining set won't matter here. Prioritize insta mining Hearthstone and killing with whatever magic find you can get. You can still use Mole and Efficient Miner while reverse tunneling, although it won't be as effective. But Scatha Mining is still possible at this level. If you are Heart of the Mountain 6, make sure to grab Tunnel Vision. You could use a pet like Endermite to get some extra pet luck. Make sure you have a booster cookie and a god pot with the Celestial Mixin and Hot Chocolate Mixin. These are a bit expensive, but they give so much and you definitely need to get a hold of these. Moving on to the mid game, this is where you'll have access to a bit more stuff. This is where you'll want to have basic Sorrow or Superior. If you have Superior, just use it, but if you have Sorrow, use it instead. You might have a Kime 1 or Kime 2 weapon at this point, which is super useful for getting extra stats from your pet. Speaking of, at this point you should be able to afford something like a Black Cat. If you can't get a relic, use something like a Lucky Clover or Cretan Urn. At this point you should have some enrichments, and make sure you have an accessory for an extra 1 magic find. You should be Heart of the Mountain 8 at this point, so make sure you grab Miner's Blessing for an extra 30 magic find. You should also have a Rift Necklace and David's Cloak for an extra 10 magic find. Your taming should also be about 40 to 50 here, which is 1 pet luck per level, so make sure to level this up as much as you can. Moving into late game, this is where most of the Skyblock population will be. This is where you'll have near max efficiency with Scathas, although maybe not quite max, but we'll get into that later. At this point you should have a beacon, and you should be using Scorch Power Crystals to get 6 tracking. You should also be able to afford 5 Brain Foods for an extra 5 tracking. At this point you should be using only 4 out of 4 Renowned Sorrow for the extra magic find. You should also have a level 200 G-Drag with a Hephaestus Relic and a 100k gold collection for max magic find. To go with it, your weapon should have Chimera 5 to double your magic find with your G-Dragon. This is the level where you want to start focusing on any source of magic find you can get, so stuff like Pet Score, Pulse Ring, Anguish Artifact, and Jacobus Register for the little bits start to add up. You should also have Enderman 9 at this point for another 5 tracking. Your Worm Bestiary should be near max or preferably maxed for an extra 45 magic find on kill. You should have max taming at this point, which is an extra 60 pet luck, and you should also be focusing on your shards, which is Cinderbat for 5 magic find or Dodo Bird for 10 pet luck. This is a stage where you're also probably starting to use shurikens, as they're pretty cheap to use and you can grab a ton of them. Lastly, we have the endgame tier. This is where you're scrapping for any tiny bit of magic find or tracking that you can get. Stuff like the Necron's Ladder for 1 magic find, the Diana's Bookshelf for 1 tracking and 1 magic find, Divine Gift for an extra 6 magic find on your weapon, the Future Calories Talisman for a whopping 0.5 tracking, and stuff like the Clover Helm, which is stupid expensive but is an extra plus 5% magic find. You should also have max pet score at this point, which is 13 magic find, and max accessories with all your enrichments. And with that, that is the complete Scatha guide. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope to make more guide content in the future. If this was helpful, please let me know down in the comments, and hopefully this served you well for year 500. I spent days stressing over this video and trying to make it as good as possible, because I didn't want to spread any wrong information, and I want you guys to have the best knowledge you can. I know I'm cutting it close here by uploading this close to the deadline, but it was an accomplishment in itself of actually getting this video done at all, so I can be proud of that. Anyways, this is my first actual long-form video with any kind of editing, so I would really appreciate your critiques down in the comments. Let me know anything I might have missed, any tips you have for other players, or any tips for me about what I could improve with my video editing. And with that, it's time for me to go to bed. It is way beyond my bedtime, and I need to sleep before raffle, because I will also be Scatha mining at least a little bit. And with that, I'll see you all later. Bye bye!